And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Brian Gelt. Brian is the founder of Peoplelytics, and we are going to dive all into people and business and everything. And as we get there, Brian, and jump. First of all, thanks for being with me, man. Thanks for being my guest.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Are welcome. I'm looking forward to it too, because you do something that I don't know that I've had anybody on Expert Speak do what you do. And the line that really grabbed me and that we're going to talk a lot about is every business problem is a people problem. And Brian can help you as an entrepreneur help figure that out. So Brian, as we dive into this conversation, tell me, how in the world did you get to doing what you are doing today?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been a long and windy road, right? I spent most of my life in the automotive business. I'm a retail car guy.
Okay.
I started actually while I was in college to help supplement income to keep me in college. And then after I finished, I realized I loved it, so I stuck with it. And I spent 35 years in the retail automotive, and primarily that was split between two different companies, two of the biggest retail automotive organizations in the world. I've really had a lot of fun with it, and spent a whole career really developing people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that I did just like everybody else does. You know, I tried to use whatever tools I could find, but mostly I did it by making mistakes. And it probably, it negatively affected probably some people, and some people got all the rewards that maybe they didn't deserve, but that's the way it goes, right?
Right.
And then about 20 years ago, I found this tool, and it's called Predictive Index. And what it does is it uses data to help understand not only who somebody is, but how well they fit the job. And so what that enabled me to do was that piece that I was missing all along, which is, how do I know who's the right person for the job? Typically
Right.
we have a little conversation, we look at a resume and we go, okay, let's give you a shot.
Let's
Right?
see. Do you have a pulse? Are you breathing? Okay, you fit
Right.
the bill.
So the hard part is, it's guessing at best.
Right.
So what this enabled me to do was understand who somebody really was at their core,
Mm-hmm.
and see how well they fit the job. Because think of it, like if I said to you, hey, I want you to be an accountant, and you're going to sit in a cubicle and you're going to be there for 8 hours a day, and maybe you'll get to talk to one person. Well, if you're a really extroverted person, that's not going to last very long.
No.
Right? Or conversely, if you don't really like talking to people and I say, well, I'm going to make you a salesperson, well, that's not going to work either.
Right.
So this tool enabled me to identify who's who. What it really did was help me find people that were going to be a great fit for the job, that didn't have a resume, right? They didn't have the quote unquote skills. I taught them the skills, but they loved what they were doing. So they were excited every day. They showed up every day. If I gave them coaching and feedback, they're like, yeah, give me more. And so I was able to help create teams of people who others would have said, they don't belong in this job.
Yeah.
Well, I turned them into superstars.
Man, that is so cool. So it's interesting. So I'm part of a coaching program called Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan. He talks a lot about unique abilities. And that's kind of at one level, what you're talking about is if you put a square peg in a round hole, it ain't going to fit.
Right.
But you find that round hole and the round peg and you put them together, it's like magic. And too many business owners don't think about hiring well enough because nobody teaches us this, right? And most of us haven't stumbled into a program. So we need help, Brian. And that's one reason I'm glad you're here, is to help business owners, as I just termed it based on what you were telling me, to find right fit people for the positions you have and avoid the rest. Just, is that fair?
Yeah, and it's and I'll just say, it's not necessarily about avoiding the rest. Maybe they're good for something else, right? But it's understanding, who's who are my players. And so if they're not a quality human, I don't
That's
want
a
them
different
working
story.
for me, right? Different
That's right.
story. But if
Yeah.
but if I've got a quality human being, a good person, I got to find a spot, right?
Right.
It might be this spot or that spot. So it's a fantastic tool to not only cut through some of the clutter, but it does it
Yeah.
quick. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so easy, and it takes a lot of the guessing out of it, and it makes hiring much easier.
Yeah. That's hiring without the guesswork. That's awesome. The
Yeah.
other thing is you just said it's quick, it's easy. So here's the problem, Brian, and this is why you exist and why people need to go talk to you. Is I've taken the personality profiles and I get the results and the data, and I go, okay,
That's right.
how do I interpret that? That's what you kind of help business owners do.
Yeah, that's what I tell all my people, that as I'm teaching them how to use this data and this tool, is there is no right or wrong. It only matters in relation to the work
Mm-hmm.
and other people,
Yeah.
right? If my personality is different than your personality, is different from my wife's personality, that's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
My wife has gifts that I can't do.
Right.
Right. I don't have the
Well,
personality for it.
yeah.
So she can do those things really, really well. And the whole point is understanding, hey, who's who?
Yeah.
And
Well,
we should have someone doing this and someone doing that.
and reveling in that. So you don't know this about me, Brian. I only do 4 things well in life. Okay. Now I do them wicked good. Outside of that, though, I'm mediocre at best. And so I've learned to build a team and build people to do all that other stuff that drives me bad. I mean, when I started my company, right, I was bookkeeper and I was copy editor, and I was like, oh my God, get that out of the way. Let me do what I'm great at. Let them do what they're great at. It's amazing how much fun we can have in work when you're doing what you're great at.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so
That's it.
you've got a tool, and you work with business owners large and small to
Yeah.
help them understand. One of the challenges really with hiring, nobody really teaches it. And so we just, yeah, do you have a pulse? Okay, let's go. And we don't realize that your tool is not just hiring. It's also to build into people to help them on a, dare I say, a career path, but how do you keep them motivated, right?
Yeah, don't dare to say it. It's a career path. It's how do we help people develop?
Mm,
So one of the biggest challenges that we've got in across all business and all industry is what we refer to as middle managers. But
mm-hmm.
to me, it's really newer managers, right? So we know that finding talent's a challenge anyhow.
Yeah.
So manager who's been there for 15 years leaves, we bring in new manager's been with the company 2 years, right? Doesn't have quite that knowledge base, doesn't really know how to teach, how to help their people or develop people. They might have been good at what they were doing, and then all of a sudden we say, congratulations, you are the anointed one, you are now the manager, go to work.
Yeah.
And we suddenly expect these people to know what to do,
Right.
and we give them no training, no skills, no teaching. And so part of what this tool does, and it's really fantastic, is that it's all action oriented. So the information itself is really great, but the tools provide action. So one of the tools we provide is to actually help these new managers coach their people. We provide them with word tracks. We provide them with the tools and the skills in a simple, actionable format that's quick and easy to get to, so that they can have good conversations with their employees and help them develop. Because without some of that, they don't know what to do or say. And so they end up like I did in the start of my career, trying not to make a mistake, trying not to
Right.
screw it up.
Which is not a great way to enter the day every day when you're in a position that you feel incompetent because you've not been trained, and then it starts breeding insecurities in your head. And how's that going to flow out to your people? And it's just not a good thing.
No, you're right. And then statistically, Michael, 70% of the people that quit a job quit because of their manager. Okay.
Wow.
Now that's a number of different studies that have produced that same statistic. So if 70% of the people that are quitting because of their manager, and yet most companies don't teach their manager how to manage, boy, that's a cycle that's going to have to break.
That's right. Yeah. And how simple is it to break the cycle when you've got Brian on your team, right? And a tool that is amazingly accurate and applicable. Fair?
There, absolutely.
Yeah. And so instead of struggling with it, and really, instead of trying to figure this out, I mean, you can read books on. I just read a book on hiring. It's called Who. I think it was named Who. My son gave it to me. It's a great book. Go hire a people, a quality people. Okay, and well, they give you the thing. Okay, now we have to go figure it all out, right? Versus saying,
Right.
"Hey, Brian, I need some A quality people in this world who can do this kind of a thing." And then Brian's going to probably ask me a bunch of questions, I would guess, and say, "Okay, help me understand culture and size of company." I mean, I assume all of that plays into as you work with a business owner.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and size of company can play into it a little bit because, in a smaller company, like you said, you're wearing many hats, right? So we need more of that jack of all trades. In a much larger company, roles are more clearly defined and they're easier to pinpoint. And you need somebody who's an expert at that and just that, which is fine, which is great. The real key is the ability to help business owners define what they need and define it in clear, specific terms. We actually develop a pattern. I mean, it's literally a pattern that we can compare our candidates to see how well they line up. It is miraculous how easy it is and how great it is to do. But one of the things I'll touch on is the perfect A player for your company may not be an A player for my company.
Right.
Right. So because we have different needs and our companies might be in different spots. So it enables me to work with these business owners and help them decide what do they need and get really clear and define a target so that when they're hiring, they can hit the target.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. My son, my eldest son, Caleb, he's 28. He's my chief operating officer. And he and I work really well together because we are complete opposites, just like my wife and I, right? And your wife and you, which is a great thing. And as we've had discussions around business and hiring and just finance and all kinds of things, the question that one of his coaches told him is, what are we solving for? And that goes back to what you just said is absolute clarity. Because I can only imagine, Brian, you get business owners coming to you saying, okay, I need a marketing guy or I need a sales guy. And through conversation, you realize, yeah, really, that's not what you need. You need this over here. Does that happen?
It happens all the time, right? And so part of what I do is force them to sit still and talk to me, right? Because and that's a challenge too.
It is.
Especially in larger businesses, I'll tell you what happens is hiring manager says, I need a salesperson. So they send that over to the HR department and the HR department lines up 15 salesperson candidates, sends them all to that hiring manager. And the hiring manager says, that's not what I meant. Well,
yeah, 100%.
Right. Meanwhile, now we're invested in all of these people and thousands of dollars and man hours like crazy. When what we really needed to do was spend 15 minutes up front saying, let's get clear on what you need.
Right.
And when we do that, then I can give it to that hiring manager. That's the beauty of it is I get the hiring manager who's clear with the HR person, the recruiter, and they're finding the right talent. And the hiring manager's going through the interview process going, wow, this is fantastic. I'm finding people that are what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes the hiring process, well, hopefully easier, less stressful on everybody's front. But all right, so let's talk about retention, because when you find that right fit person, you plug them in, assuming the culture and everything's good, they're probably going to last a lot longer than the churn of every 90 days or whatever it is, saving so much money, time, effort.
Yeah.
Is that fair? What do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, a lot of that retention issue, I call it churn, that
Mhm.
60, 90, 120 days. Those are people that are nice people that they walk up to you and they say, gosh, I really like it here. I quit. And you're dumbfounded. And really, they just don't like the job. They don't like what they're doing every day. So we try to eliminate that going in. And then the retention is, it comes with personal development. And so one of the things that, again, study after study says, when people quit because of a manager, 60% of those people that quit because of the manager say, my manager doesn't care about my personal development or my career goals. So again, when we're teaching managers how to coach, lead, and develop their people, it's not only good for the employee, it's good for the employer. I'm retaining my people. That is one of the biggest reasons people quit, is nobody cares about my future. So here I am with a plan about your future.
Yeah.
And then we make it easy and actionable and simple to it doesn't take days of prep work. It takes minutes, and it's really effective.
That's cool. I want to get into a little bit of the data component, because that's a little bit different. Because I'm sitting here as a business owner going, well, what's the difference between Brian and a headhunter or
Great
Indeed?
question.
Yeah, help
Sure.
us out with that.
So a headhunter is a recruiter. A headhunter is out there beating the bushes looking for that perfect person, and usually that perfect person is resume based. What I'm doing is a little bit different. I'm not a headhunter. I'm not out recruiting people. I am trying to help the business owner identify, first of all, what's your real target? Get clear on what you're after when it comes to hiring. Then we use this assessment tool. It takes about 6 minutes for a candidate to complete. 6 minutes, that's it.
6 minutes, 6.
Yep. So we get the candidates to complete it so that we can identify who's a really good fit for the job and who's not, regardless of resume. I might find people with no resume that are a great fit. I want to talk to them. I might find people with great resume that are just a so-so fit. I probably want to talk to them too. But I'm expanding the talent pool. So it helps them. It helps the client companies that work with me build a bigger database, a bigger talent pool. And then we provide them with some tools. One of them we call an interview guide that actually helps them explore where candidates might be slightly misaligned and can they adapt. So I'm really looking for an interview that goes beyond the resume, right?
Good.
Your typical interview is, oh, I see you worked at that job. Tell me about it. That job. Tell me about that. Oh, I might know that person. You spend 20 minutes verifying resume, think, yeah, would I like to hang out with this person? Sure. Okay, you're hired. Well, nobody ever answers the question, can they do the job?
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to help my clients get better at is, it's nice if I want to like them. That's great. I'm interested in their resume. That tells me about certain things, but I want to know, can they do the work? Are they going to like the work? Because as you said, if they like the job, they take the coaching and feedback, they last longer, and they're more productive and happy.
And that is where we have found the greatest upward mobility. When we have somebody and somebody higher up goes somewhere else, we always applaud them and help them and go. And then we look for talent to replace them in-house.
Yeah.
And they grow. And then it's like, okay, this is good, because I'm telling you, dude, and you know this as well as I do, one of the fastest ways to slow your business growth down is by turnover and churn and, the pain, the time, the expense, the But if you've got the right people and you've got a let's call it bench strength, right? You interview 6 people, you hire 1. Now you got 5 people. Don't throw those resumes away, because odds are 3 of those people are in jobs they're not going to be happy with in a year from now. And if your business is growing, work with Brian to go, okay, dude, here's where we're going. I think my next hire is going to be in 6 months, and it's going to be this person. What do you think? And it gives you time to plan. Is that how you do it?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, we even like to take it one step further. I want you to imagine if you were interviewing those 6 people and they all worked for you already. and you selected one of those, and you knew you had a few more that you were already starting these conversations with, because not only are they strong in your bench, right, but they may have different strengths that could lead to different career paths. So, do we want them from the outside? Sure. But if we can hire from the inside, we already know we have a good cultural fit. That's the magic.
It's really interesting, because I read a book a couple years ago, and it's on my shelf. It's called A CEO Only Does Three Things. People was number one.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really, they talked about the CEO's job of finding those right people, but also building the culture. And that's where we say entrepreneurs and business owners, and what entrepreneurs and business owners need to realize, that you are also the CEO of your company, and you need to think like a CEO. And I think, Brian, what you're bringing to the table are CEO level tools, opportunities, and frameworks, and a thinking apparatus to go, I need to think differently if I'm going to actually grow a business. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And from the CEO on down, they're having these thoughts, right? They know, I need to accomplish this. And most of them, you're right, are people related. But anytime you're dealing with people, things get mushy, right? And they get challenging, and then things get stalled. So what I'm able to do is actually take those thoughts of, let's define our strategy. And then we're able to identify people who fit the strategy, so that they're hiring the right people. And we're doing it because we infuse data into that process. We take a lot of that emotional stuff out of the hiring, and we're able to make better decisions. And so it works for my clients. And while it definitely starts in the C-suite, it cascades through the entire organization. And where it's most successful, they don't make a people decision without it.
Yeah. Well, and I can only imagine a company with, whether you've got 5 employees or 50, doesn't matter, of getting the aroma that somebody's not happy, and being able to have a conversation and say, okay, Brian, let's have a conversation. What's going on? And are you maybe not in the right fit? And let me tell you, Brian, your job's not on the line. Okay, we want you here, but I want to make sure that you're thriving. Let's have that conversation. And we've got a tool that we're going to use to help. And it might be that you're going to be more valuable over here. Maybe, I don't know. Is that kind of how it works, or should work?
Yeah, and it does. I mean, hiring is not just about out from the outside. It's internal and promotions. It's also what we call lateral moves, right? When you have that really good person in the wrong job.
Yeah,
100%, I'm a believer that as leaders, we have a responsibility to get them in the right spot.
Dude, where were you 14 years ago? I don't know if you heard my whole story, but I was in prison for 2 years, Brian, and that was a job I hated at administrative law for 2 years, because they stuck me somewhere and it wasn't me. And they never asked me. They didn't have the tools. They didn't have a Brian. And so after 2 years, I escaped from prison. I left the company. I love the place. I can't work here anymore, right? Now, it all worked out because I'm doing this now, but I was in prison. And I think there are a lot of people who are in prison in their job.
Right.
And Brian has the keys to the cell door. And as a business owner, you can be the warden who comes and frees your prisoners and keep them in your company. You don't have to exit them. So many times you move them from one place to another, and they are going to thrive.
That's exactly right.
Are you, as a business owner, open to that?
Yeah. And that puts, talk about your biggest advocate. When, instead of just tossing somebody out because they weren't a good fit for the role, when you find the right fit for them and they thrive, oh my goodness, that is a game changer for their life. And that matters.
For their life and for your recruiting, because they're telling all their friends, saying, you won't believe what happened. They actually care for me.
That's correct.
They actually did this. You should be working where I work.
That's right.
And it makes your recruit. I mean, dude, it is so, at one level, it is so simple. At another level, because you're dealing with people, it's very complex. And that's why Brian, in his tool, that we haven't really talked about, but that's okay. I'm going to let them do that one-on-one with you, because
Sure.
this 6-minute tool, that's amazing, will give you and Brian the data you need once you figure out who and what you're really looking for.
Right.
And that's why having somebody like Brian with just decades of experience in business can come alongside of you and help you take those steps to be able to hire the best people inside and outside of your company.
That's right.
Your company will grow.
Hire, retain, and develop. You bet.
I love it. Hire, retain, and develop. And isn't that good? Golly, those are like 3 things that every business owner should want to do.
That's right.
Hire the right people, retain them, but develop them and their skill sets so that they can continue to grow and develop. And it makes business so much fun when you do have an eye on people and realize, I mean, money and profit is great. I mean, we all love it, but at the end of the day, it's people. It's making an investment, changing people's lives, and helping them thrive with the gifts, talents, and abilities God's given them. Go.
Every problem is a people problem. When we solve the people problem, the business problems tend to solve themselves.
They really do. And if you're struggling with people problems, Brian's the guy that you need to talk to. So Brian, where do people find you to take that next step?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, peoplelytics.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on other number of different social media. You can call me on my cell phone, and I'm happy to help. And I'll even, you know what, for any of your listeners that reach out, let's get them started for free. Let's just try and we'll give them some assessments at no charge. We'll show them how it works. And then they can decide after they try it if they want to keep going.
That's a great offer. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna grab all that Brian just talked about, his website, LinkedIn things. I'm gonna put that in the show notes, because my listeners are entrepreneurs, business owners. They're probably dealing with people issues right now. Whether it's in-house, out-of-house, clients, whatever, they're busy. And I know they go to the show notes. So I'm going to have it in there for them so that you can reach out to Brian, check out his website. Look, just pick up the phone and call him or connect with him and say, how do I get started? Because I know that our company, if you are a growth-oriented entrepreneur, you need to talk with Brian. Because to grow your business, guess what? It's going to take people.
That's right.
And that is one of the greatest returns on investment you will ever make, is doing it right. And all of your peers have headaches, they have complaints, and they have horror stories. And you can avoid that most of the time by reaching out to Brian. I mean, they're people. What are you going to do? There's always one that gets through.
That's true.
But reach out to Brian, and he can help you find those people and develop them and put them on a great trajectory for your company, but also for them in their life. And you will feel so good about it in every way. Brian, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you for being my guest. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Man, it was lots of fun. So thanks for listening to Expert Speak. We'll be back next week with another great episode.